Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining. This is day 4 of Oracle integrations training, and in this sessions we will cover a few of the integrations related to URI parameters and the query parameters in that our REST-based integrations. And also we will cover a few of the actions available in OIC, which includes switch, notifications, and basic things we'll cover. So let's move to that integrations and we'll start discussion on that. So if you will see, last time we created one of our integrations that REST-based integrations where we were passing these two values as a request payload. Request payload, it means that in a body, and we are getting a response. This time what we will do, instead of passing these two as a request body, we will pass these two as a query parameters, and let's see that how we can implement our integration in such way that we can add query parameters in our REST-based integrations. So let's move to this integration. So this is the integrations we created the last time. If you will see, this is the integration sort name that's consisting in the URL only. So I just take copy the here, and if I search, this is the same integrations we have. So we have these integrations already created, and we want to do some changes in these integrations. So when we want to do some changes in the integrations and all, we have two options. So either we can go creating a clone of that integrations, or we can just create a new version of the integrations. So clone and version is two different things. So when we are saying that clone, it means that we are creating duplicate copy of these integrations. And when we are creating a new version of integrations, so that comes under the version control system. So when we are saying that version control system, you can see right now this is our first integrations, and the version of that integration is 1.000, 1.0.0. So now if I want to do the changes in the version of this integration, so let me show you that version also. So just I'm going to create another version of this integration. So create a new version, and while creating this new version, here you can see we have options to edit this version. But when we have options to edit the version, but you are able to see that there is no options to change the name, there is no options to change the identifier, because these two are the unique for that. And if you remember last time I told you, when we are creating integrations, identifiers should be unique on the instance. They can't be duplicate. So if I will create a new version, so there will be our another integrations, but version, the integration name and identifier will be same. Then you can have a questions, right? If in a single instance we cannot have same identifier for two different integrations, then why we have here? So we have here just because we have the different version. So we are going to create it with a different version. So we created earlier it was 1.0.0. That one comes under the major one, and the second one is that minor, and the last one is the patch. So this major or minor, when we are checking this minor on patch, when we are doing, so we are just doing that small changes and all. So a small changes and fix, for example, we want to add a logic changes and something, right? For example, you have to add few of the mappings. Your integration is working fine, but you want to do some changes in the mappings and all, you will go for minor and patch version. And these two, when we are creating minor and patch version, so your integrations URL will not if affect anything. So as of now, I just changed the patch version to 002. I will show you that. Just create a new version. So your new integrations will be created. You can see new integrations created, same name. And if you will you will check identifier, you will be also find that identifier is also same, because we have not changed. It just got changed the version 1.0, 0.2. So now if you will see, so when we are checking that minor version, so there is different in a single instance there can be only one active integrations for these two. So as we just updated the version for that, so there will be only one activated integration at a time. So if you want to activate these integrations, that 1.0.2, the second one you have to deactivate, or it will automatically deactivate. So let me show. So let me do some changes in this integration so that I can show you that. So this is our mapping, that is taking two value as a request payload, two value as a request payload, and returning the addition of these two in the result. Right. So here you can see, let me add few hard coded values like that last time, right? We added concat. Concat is the functions which is going to do merge of two values, that hard coded values at runtime values. So I want to print like that. Result is, and this value I want to print. So result is, this is our addition of these two number. I want to display a message like that. So save, validate, and just moving back, save and go back. So now you can see when I will activate this integration, this will be deactivated. You can see activation in progress. And you can see the second one, the which one was the first one, 1.00, it's got configured, that is deactivated. So now the same, if we are changing the version, that patch version or minor version, that's the any of the integrations will be activated at same time. So now if you will see, if I want to run these integrations, so as I told you that when you will create a new version of integrations just by checking the patch version, changing the batch version and the minor version, it will not affect to the URL. So if you will go and find the URL for this integration, let me run this integration. So endpoint metadata, this is our endpoint for this integration. I can see this is the URL, right? So above is the URL for the first time when we created. Above is the URL for first time we created, and below is the URL for that integration which we right now created by just making a new version. So if you will go to the Postman just to make sure that the same integrations we are referring, let me copy this URL, and here if I will paste, it is same. Are you able to see? There is no difference between these two integration. If you want to just make sure, let me have a copy of this one. Control F and count. You can see two count. Just because those two are same, right? So then you can see how this Postman will identify which integrations we have to invoke, right? This is the URL, and if I will run this URL this time, it will show us the new integrations result. You can see result is 103. This result is it was not there for the earlier one, right? For these integrations, we have just I'm just going to show you this one too. What was the name of this integration? Let me just take a copy of this. This is the integration short name, right? Or integration identifier, you can say. You can say. So how that Postman is going to run your integration instead of this integration just because the activation. So whatever integration is active, it will invoke that one because both integrations having the same URL, same link, no changes. As we just changed the patch version or we just changed the minor version of this integration. And I told you that when we are changing minor version of integration, there won't be any changes in URL. So that's why here you can see we don't have any changes. And if if you try to identify that's the changes, reason you can see here the version is showing 1.0, and the last version it's not reflecting here, right? In our integration, the version is 1.0.2, 1.0.0, and you can see when integration is creating URL, it's creating URL only with the major version. That's one, including one major and patch version 1.0, 1.0, right? Here you can see we have 1.0. So that's why if you are going to change that the minor version, it will not affect to your URL. For example, let me change this integrations by creating new version. And this time, new version which I am going to create, sorry, new version. Here you can see, just click create a new version button. You click here, it will show you. And now this time, I'm just going to change the version to this one, 0.2. So this time, I'm just going to change the minor version, right? Here you can see the second one is the minor version. So as I told you that here we have 0.2. If I will create, so our URL will be 1.2. So let me go, click on run, and let me activate first this integration. And here you can see when we are going to activate this integration, it's asking the same thing, right? You can see activating
Not
integrations.
able to see your screen.
Oh, sorry. Are you able to see my screen now? By when you are not able to
Yes,
see
yes.
screen? How much time ago?
Yeah,
So,
just a minute ago.
okay, okay,
Now it is.
okay. Are you able to see
Okay.
my screen now? So now here you can
Yes,
see
yes.
we created new integrations by changing that patch version. Now integration version is 1.1.2.0. Now when I'm going to create on just going to activate these integrations, and you can see the message below activating integrations FOS, that our integration 1.2, right? This one 1.2. require deactivating integrations of that existing integrations, right? You can see the integrations by 1.0.2, because I told you that when we will change the integration version, just by changing that the patch version or the minor version, it will require to deactivate other integrations too. So just I'm going to activate here. So once we will activate, the second will integration will be deactivated. You can see 1.2 got deactivated. Now this is the integrations. Let me take a copy of this URL for this integration and point metadata. And you can see URL of this integration. URL of this integration is again same at 1.0 only. Why? Because this one is reflecting from here. This one is reflecting that major version. And that major version is not going to impact anymore. So when we will do changes in any when we will create integrations by creating new version, and that version can be that major version, minor version, or the patch version, it will not affect to our URL. So that's why, as you can see in our integration instance, we have only one integration activated. So whenever we will run these integrations from Postman, from VBCS page, or from any third-party applications, so whenever this integration, this URL will be hit, it will automatically run the integration which is in activated status, because we know that the integration versioning control saying that we can have only one activated integration at time. So that's why it will automatically run these integrations. So now I'm just going to change the major version of this integration. So this is our integration. I'm just going to create a new version. And while creating new version, I will just directly change to the major version. So that major version I just make at 0. And here you can see it's 2.00. Now I'm just going to create a new version. So you can see as we create a new version and we change that the major version, our integration version start from 2. And earlier remaining 3 was a start from 1. So this will just reflect that integrations URL. Now if I will activate, it will not ask to deactivate other integrations, because the both integrations are completely different. The remaining 3 is different and this 2 is different. So if I will activate here, let me do some changes here so that it can have the different messages. Okay. And let me add the value here. Something. Result is this. And I want to add a new message like with updated major version. So I'm just going back, save. Now I'm just going to activate this integration. So you can see when we move to activating this integration, it's not asking to deactivate other integrations. So let me activate here.
Uh, Suppose there are three activities while activating the integration, right? Debug,
Hmm.
production, and other things.
Yeah.
So, what is the differences between them? I mean, like why we
So
are only activating and debugging?
okay, we'll explain you next time when we'll go for that. So just wait for that. So here you can see we have this integrations activated, and simultaneously you can see in our same instance, same integrations name, same integrations identifier, same integration identifier, but this time version is different. The version you can see major version is 2 and the for previous integration is 1. So now if we will go and we'll check the URL for these integrations just by taking URL from endpoint metadata. Here you can see URL is different. So how URL is different? You can see after the integration identifier we have 2.0. So this
Yes.
2.0 and 1.0 is completely different. So that's why if I will run this integration from Postman, right? So while running this one, here we have 1.0. That's why it will invoke that old integrations only. It will not invoke the latest version we created. So to run our integrations by just latest version, so as we have this version change, so we'll have to go and we have to change the version here. So now if you will go and change the version, it will give you the result for the new integration. You can see Result is this one with updated major version. So just because we change the integrations, it will change the URL. So where this will impact? So this will impact. So whenever you want to change your integrations major version, you have to take care of that point that wherever you have shared this URL to any external system, there they have to change that URL. So that's why every time we are developing our integrations, we are doing changes in our integrations. We are not going to do changes in the major version. We are doing changes in minor or patch version only, so that it will not impact to that integrations URL, not impact to the API which we share with other system. So this is all about that integrations and integrations version. So that's also considered as a versioning control. So sometimes in interviews and all, they will ask you that are you aware about that version control in OIC? So yes, we have three versions available in OIC: that major, minor, and patch. And you can say that when we are changing integrations from changing integrations by changing the major version, it will effect to that URL, nothing else. It will just effect to the URLs, and we can have multiple integrations activated on the same system with different major version. But if you will do changes in integrations with a minor version or the patch version, it will not allow us to activate the same integrations having different major or minor or patch version activated. So it will deactivate other integrations to activate our latest integration by changing the minor or patch version. So this is all about. So now let's create integrations. Which integrations will have the query parameters instead of this request body? So how we'll do that? So let's move to the instance. This is our integrations. I will go for the first 1.00 only. So let me create a copy of this one. So you can see we have options to create clone. Clone is something that duplicate of that integration. So when we are saying clone, it means that we are creating duplicate of integrations. So I'm just going to click on clone. So when we are creating clone, it means that we are going to create duplicate of these integrations, and then it will allow us to change the name. It will allow us to change the identifier. All. So here we have our integration name FOSINT001. I will make it 002. Calculator app, and here I will give the name as uh, calculator, and we'll give as query parameter something QP. Done. So now you can see integration's name got changed, URL got, or the integration identifier got changed automatically, and this is the version. Let it be the same. I'm just going to give the brief on this integration as this. Oh yeah,
Just a query
integration.
parameter and
Yes, yeah.
URI parameter are the same thing, no?
No, both are different.
Query and URI,
Yeah,
both are
both are
same.
different. Yeah, no, I will tell you the difference between these two. Integration is based
Okay.
on
Okay,
URI
sir.
and this. So now, if you will see, when we are saying that query parameters, so whenever you will add anything, for example, we added query parameters here, and here we added, for example, uh, something, not query parameter, yeah, query parameters we given and one, and one is equals to 100. So you can see the query parameters, whatever you given, this name will include in the URL. You can see when we added query parameters, name automatically added by adding the question mark. You can see and one is equals to 100. You can see this one. That's the query parameters which will display the parameters name also. And when we are saying that URI parameters we are adding directly in the URL only. So for example, here instead of providing this one, what we can do? So let me remove slash. I want to give like value like that. Value that is 100. So this is the value which we want to pass to this integration. So this value consider as a URI parameters. So this is URI parameters, and that the previous one which we added, that was URL, that query parameters. That's the difference between these two. One of the example, if you will
So
see,
what is the template and path parameter?
yeah, that's the template and path parameters is the same. That query parameters we are considering, or that URI parameter. Sorry. So if you will see one of the example, update invoice API in
So
Oracle
URI
Fusion.
parameter and template parameter are same.
Yeah. So I can show you here. You can see this is the REST API provided by Oracle. This REST API is updating the invoice, API invoices created in the system. And here you can see in the URL itself, it's having the parameters as invoice ID. You can see. So at runtime, we have to replace this with the invoice ID, which invoice ID we want to update the value. So that is that URI parameters. Just allow me 1 minute, huh? Someone is knocking the door. Okay, so let me add that all these parameters in our integration. So where we will add. So now here you can see this is our integrations, and we are going to just create a new version of this integration. So as we already created, so it's just I have to remove the filter from here. So what was the integrations name we given? Let me search with that. So this one, right? QP app. So I'm just going to edit this integration. And what I want to add these two parameters as a query parameters where we will pass N1 and an M2. And, only one body we want to pass, just pass as a value. So let's see that what we can do. So this is the endpoint of our integrations, and we want to do the changes in these endpoints only, right? Because in the endpoint only we configure the request and response payload. Here only we have to configure our query parameters and URI parameters. So just I'm going to edit here. And now once you will go, you continue, you will see this is the options. So last time, if you remember, I told you this below two options is just to identify this is our integration is just going to hold the request payload, and our integration is just going to hold the response payload. So for these two we have, right? Another, we just want to add the URI parameters or query parameters. That's why here we have third checkbox that add a review parameters for this endpoint. So URI parameters and the query parameter, both are treated as a review parameters in case of this integrations terminology. So that's why if you will add here in next screen, I will remove here. So you can see in the next screen, I have not added these features. If you will go, it will directly ask you to add the request payload. You can see edit request. But if you will go back, we will add this one. So it will now it will ask first to add the parameters, and then it will go for the request body. So just I'm going to do continue, and here you can see when we click the checkbox and we continue, it's asking that either the request parameters. So the request parameters, query parameters, URI parameters, that's all are comes under this same text. Comes under the same review parameters for in case of integration. So now I'm going move ahead and adding the parameters. So the parameters we want to add, that's query parameters. So you can see specify query parameters here. So to specify the query parameters, we just have to come here and we want to give the name. So to give the name, just double click here so that it will open you this box as a edit mode. So I just double click here, it asking the name of the parameters. So the name of parameters I want to give p underscore n1. And the data type we have to select. So we'll select data type as integer. Now I want to add another parameters p underscore n2. And here again I will select another parameters as integer only. So now these two query parameters we added. And here you can see our resource URI doesn't have anything. So if we want to add template parameters, we have to add template parameters here only. So how we add the template parameters? To add the template parameters, if you will see, now let me go back. Here in the URL only we have to save. To add the template parameters, we just have to specify the template parameters at the URI parameters here in this bracket. You can see the curly braces. Order ID is defining that this is the parameters. So here if you want, we can add that ones too. For example, we want to add something, yeah, operation. P underscore PERATION operation something. Operation like add, subtract, something we can add. So if you will go next, here you can see, if I will go next, here you can see our resource URI got changed, and here it's added the value. At runtime, we have to replace this value with the value which we want to send. So now here you can see we have these three options. So now I'm just going to go ahead. So you can see P operations, the template parameters are the URI parameters we added. That's displaying here. Even we want to change, if you want, we can change the data type of these two. So as of now, we'll go for a string only. So a string, yeah, it's by default it's coming. So this is the query parameters we added, and this is the template parameters we added. And these two will comes under and make combination name as the review parameters for this integration specific. And now I'm going to go continue. And in this case, we have the request payload, but I don't want to configure any request payload. You can remove this request payload from here, or what you can do, let me just go back in the very first page, the configuration page, and here we will just have to remove this URL. You can see, remove. And here you can see when we added this one, it makes that mandatory. You cannot remove that one because the URI parameters and the query parameters both comes under the review parameters only, and that's why as we already having that having this URL parameters, we cannot uncheck this one. If we want to uncheck this one, we have to remove this first from here. So now our integrations having the query parameters and the URL parameters, and we want that response. So that's why I will make this tick as a response. Go next. You can see this is our query parameters part. After that, earlier it was showing the request configurations to configure the request payload, but this time it will not ask to configure the request payload because we unticked that option. So that's why directly we came here and we have options for response. And the response options is same. But let me add one more options here, that operations. So what operations we added? So I'm just going to add one more operation. OPERATION operation. Can someone check
Can't
who
we
is?
add the
Yeah. Hmm.
query
Can
parameters in the URL
so
resource
this
path?
yeah. Can you come again?
Can't we add the query parameters in the URL just like the template
No,
parameters?
no. It will
In,
automatically. It will automatically add. No, we have to add in the configurations page only.
okay.
So now here we added the response payload. In the response payload, now we have one more extra field as operation. So I'm just going to click on continue and click on continue. Finish. Now I'm just going to save here. So once we save here, you can see, this is our mapper. So if you will go to mapper here, in the mapper, if you will see here, we have three things. So the very first thing is that we have template parameters as operations. Another, we have that query parameters as these two value. Request mapper, this should not be there. Let me reconfigure this endpoint. Sometimes you will get such kind of situation. So just go and refresh this mapper again so that you can see if we already removed. Also, we are saying here, so it should not be there. So just I'm going to check here or refresh this endpoint again. Now finish. You can see this time we got an error. So why we got an error? Just because we done some changes in this trigger endpoint. And as we done some changes in the trigger endpoint, we remove the request payload, right? We remove the value from request wrapper or request payload, and that value we are using here in the mapping. That's why it's showing error because that value is not available as of now. If you will go here, you can see what error we are getting. Mapping for target is not valid. Click here for more details. The which mapping is not valid? The target N1. If you will double click here in the error message, it will navigate you to the point where we have error. You can see N1, earlier we mapped this N1 with the request wrapper, right? Request wrapper means request payload. And this time we don't have request payload because we removed from the trigger point. So that's why we don't have value here, and it's showing that warning here for all these three. In the result also we are using the addition of these two, right? So that's why it's not there. So what we can do? So what we can do here, we will just remove this one. So for removing this one, just click here. It's already in this editor mode. So you can just remove the value from here and just save. Your error will be solved. But what value we have to map here? So we know that we have to map the value coming from the query parameters, that pnum1. So I will map this pnum1 here. For the same n2 case, this is the value. So select this value and drag n2 here. It will remove the selected value and map this, the current value which we are mapping. You can see this comes a n2, and as n2 is query parameters. So now that's fine. Now here we have in the last result. So result, I don't want to make it from here. Result I want from n1 and plus n2 and save and validate. So now here, let me show you one more thing. So in our integrations mapping, we can do our validations. We can do our dummy testing. So how you can do dummy testing? So in runtime, what value will flow to this result, you can validate and you can check. So how you can check? So here you can see we have this code. If you will click on code, so whatever we done the mapping here, it will automatically write the code for that. So as we know that this is low code platform, OIC is low code platform. So whatever you will do drag and drop for each and every action, it will automatically write the code in backend. So if you want to see the code for this mapping, you will be able to see the mapping code by clicking on this code icon here. This is for mapping, this is code, and this is testing when run. So I will click on this one and you will be able to see here in the XML. I can just show you brief here. You can see this is the for result for this is response wrapper. This is n1 node, and what value holding this n1 holding value of select from this one. So this is coming from the query parameters. You can see query parameters p underscore n1 will be the value of n1 in the response wrapper, the response payload. Similar way n2, and here you can see the result. So this result node will store value of this one, this node n1 plus n2. So whatever we done the mapping in backend, it's write the code. And here you can see in OIC, whatever variables you have, that all variables you will be able to see here in the list. So that's why that variable will be utilized in the mappings and all. So this is that XML code behind that each and every mapping. So even your integration is returning the JSON. So you can see this is the JSON response, right? This is the JSON response. Our integration is going to return the JSON for this, but internally OIC is taking care of all as a XML only. So remember this point. This is one of the questions asked in that OIC certification exam also. So like what is this code OIC integration is following? So that's XML. So either it's JSON, anything that will automatically converted and processed through XML only to for OIC. So now these three are the values. So now we have to test this value that in runtime what value will flow. So just test, click on this test button. So once you will click on test button, whatever value your integrations can have, whatever nodes your integrations can have, that will list here. You can say this is the source means that value. So that source, this is the same source what you have. So whatever all these endpoint you are able to see here, all these endpoint you will be able to see here. Yeah, right. So now we have to just look for p underscore n1 and p underscore n2. So now if you will see here, somewhere we will have this value, this one. So we will have value inside this pnum1 and pnum2 in this start rest, right? Start rest node. This is inside the start rest only. So if you will go here, you can see the start rest, and here you will be able to see. So as of now, we are not able to see any value just because we have not loaded. So just to load the sample value, dummy value, you just have to click on this icon. You can see the ask generate input icon. Once you will click here, it will load the dummy value for your integration. So you can see dummy value got loaded, and here in the dummy value you can see we have this template parameters as operations, and what operation this what p underscore operations will hold any value whatever you want, you can do the testing. So as of now we are not using this value anymore, so I will not do anything with this. Now we have query parameters. So in our integrations we have two query parameters, name as p underscore n1 and p underscore n2. So here it's when we done it's dummy generated two values for these two. So I will remove one value from there. Yeah. So now our integration having two query parameters, that p underscore n1, p underscore n2. These two are there, and what is the value we want to pass while testing? So this one value is 2 and another value is 4. You can change. So let me pass second value is 100 and the first value is 50. So now when we will test, so these two value will be passed to our mapping, and our mapping will perform accurate operations, right? So just I'm going to click on this one, execute. So this will execute with the value. So you can see the response. So this is the same response we mapped, right? And 150 and 200. You can see this is the same, and the result is 150. Right, you can see the result is 150. If you want to do some changes in the mapping and all, so let me go to the mapping here. This is the mapping. So directly instead of result, let me pass the value as concat result from the operation is, and I want to map the this value, whatever result is coming. So here you can see this is first value. I want to map another value. That's why we have to provide comma, and another value I want to this map this one. So here I will pass this and just bracket close. So this bracket close is for this one, right? The concrete one. So let me save. So now we updated the mapping. This time it will display a few hard-coded values too, right? So just go to the code, and the code you will be able to see the same result from the operation is, and you can see this is the single quotes, and XML automatically converts its single quotes to this text or this code. So no need to be worry about that. It will automatically work. So now I'm just going to do here in the test, and in the test we updated the logic for this endpoint. Now if we will execute, value is there, right? So no need to generate again because we already have the value. So just click on test, it will return the value like that we mapped. Result of the operation is 150. Here, if we will pass is as 159, 156 and 300, and if we will run, it will display the same. And this is the same value we will receive in our integration response. So this way we done our testing, right? So that we can make sure that our integration will work perfectly fine. There is no any issue in the mapping and all. So just save these integrations by clicking on this validate. Go back to the integration canvas page, and you can see that error got removed. And here still we have one more error. That one more error we have is related to business identifier. If you remember last time we added the business identifier, and in the business identifier we added the num1, n1, right? So that we can also check. So as that value n1 is not there from the request payload, that's why we are getting one error. So just to check that error, you click here, you will get to know, double click here, it will reflect to the same page. So you can see error, here you can see, you will just click on this edit icon and it reflect here. So the error is saying that n1 is not present. That's true, right? This n1 we map from the request wrapper, right? The request payload. And this request payload is no exist anymore. So that's why it's generating an error. So what we can do, we can remove this one. So here as we added, it's not having options to remove. So what we can do, we can just erase this one. So that got removed, and now we have to drop. So instead of dropping that one, what we will do, we will take it from query parameters, we'll map here n1. And let me add another one as this one too, and 2 here. So now you can see we map tracking variable 1 as n1 and 2, and tracking variable 2 as n2. So this tracking value underscore 1 is the name of that business identifier. You can see this is the name of business identifier. And here you can see even the third we have the tracking var 3. If we want, we can utilize this one too. But later to now, I will not use as of now. We'll see that how we can utilize in our upcoming session. So our integration is ready. There is no any error in our integration. We just have to save our integrations to make sure that it's configured and working fine. Just go and activate this integration. This is our integration. I'm just going to activate. So here you can see we had questions that while activating this integration, we have 3 options, right? I already explained these things, but let me again explain. So this 3 option is just to show you the log messages. So the very first activity is very first tracing level message is production. When you will select production, so whatever log message it flows, you will not be able to see any data, any values flow within your integration. Audit mode and debug mode, when you will select, you will be able to see the log messages. When we are saying that the log messages, it means that the value be flowing behind your integration. You will be able to see. But the difference in audit and debug is, so debug will display you the log messages only for the 24 hours, up to 24 hours, and after that it will automatically consider as a prod and it will not display any messages. But if you will select audit, it will display you the message up to 8 days. You can see that activity stream of this data is retained for a period of 8 days. So the whatever message data it will flow through the activity stream, you will be able to see up to 8 days. And when we are saying that message and data flow, I will show you what it means. So as of now, I'm just going to select the debug and activate. So now it's saying that our integration is going to activate. So just we'll wait or refresh the page. So now our integrations got activated. I'm just going to run these integrations. To run this integration, Click on this run. And here you can see this is our URL, right? The URI for our integrations. And here you can see as our integration having the query parameters p_num2 and num1, and these two query parameters you are able to see added in the URL with the parameters name. And this is the p underscore operations of this is our URI parameters, right? That we added. So if you will provide any value, this will replace with the value whatever we will provide. For example, we added here multiply MUL. So whatever value we provided, that's got replaced here. You can see that value got replaced here. So now here we have to provide num1 and num2. So let me provide 100 and num2 as 200. Now you can see the value p underscore num2 is equals to 200 and p underscore num1 is equals to 100. And this is the operation as mul. So as of now, we are not doing anything with this value. That's why it will not impact anything. Whatever you will pass, it will work because we are not doing, we have not added any logic with this operations value, right? So now here you can see we have this our integration. I'm just going to run. So once you will run your integration, you can see it will give us the result. The result from the endpoint is 300. This MUL, that operation is not related to anything. That's why it's not impacting that. It's always returning the addition because in the mapping only we directly done the additions of that. Right. So let me run this in from Postman. So click on this endpoint. Just copy this one. Go to the Postman. Add a new one. And paste it here. So you can see as we added, it automatically add this here. At the p num1, num2, and here you can see the operations. So these operations we have to change here with any values. So we'll do something like that. Sub any message you can pass num2 and num3. So num1 and num2. So we'll pass num1 as 100, 10, let it be 10, and num2 as 20. Just click on send. So okay, sorry. So it's saying that unauthorized. We have not added the authentications. So we'll select basic authentications, and now just click on send. So okay. So here you can see why we got error because we selected method as get, but our integration method is post. So we have to make sure that while executing and while testing all this. Now you can see when we passed, our integration executed and it's giving us the result. That's all about this our integrations and all, right? Now let you utilize these conditions too, that this URL too, that why we pass that subtract for sub and for addition for add, for multiplication for m, all these things. So how we can utilize? So let's build a logic in a such way. So these integrations will take all this value, and what we want, we will build one child integration. So we will build one child integration. So whatever value we will pass to the child integration, it will perform operations on that only. For example, we will create integrations which will do only addition operations. We will create one integrations which will do only subtraction operations, that kind of things. And that integrations we will invoke from our main integrations. This is our main integrations, right? So how we can achieve? So let's first build all the child integrations. So just for brief demo, so how it will work, let me design that one. So for example, this is our main integration. This is our main integration, and this main integration having three value. So the three value is let me show you that. Run again.
Zafar, I have
Yeah,
a question here.
yeah, please.
Uh, the topic is going on only the calculation part,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And what is the main purpose of this calculation part? I mean, like, do we need to utilize this such kind of calculation in our integrations as well? Because what
Mhm,
we used to do is like we used to integrate the data from whether from the third party or from our system to third party, right?
right, right.
So yeah, and the topic is everything going on only the calculation part.
Khalil, again, I'm repeating the same. We are not just
Uh-huh.
going to do calculation operations. So before doing operations, maybe you are aware about OIC bit earlier. That's why you know all these things. But other one having zero knowledge in OIC and they are learning OIC from scratch. So I have to take care of all these things too, right? If you are no OIC earlier,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that I will skip all the part,
No, no,
right?
no. I mean,
So
like I mean, like it's a very lengthy elaborating process is going on only
No,
on the
it's
calculation.
no,
Okay.
it's not about
You can
no, no,
you can make a
Khalil,
short note.
Khalil, it's not about calculation. It's about that you learn here query parameters, URI parameters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, we
focus on
can
this,
use
yeah,
we can use the parameters based on the input which is REST APIs has provided, like AP invoice ID or ER invoice ID or PO header ID or anything, right? So we need a real-time concept so that we can understand how the data can be processed based on the REST APIs. The
Khalil.
calculation part is something where we can have an additional columns into the REST API itself as a extra column, which we can have an ATP by using an ATP or by using an UCM, uh, adding an additional column, and we can do a calculation part in that as well, right?
So now here you can see this is our integrations, and in the integrations we have three operations. So what we will do this, let me just have a copy of this one. These three operations. So what we are going to do, we are going to create one child integrations. The child integration is going to hold that value, these two values, and based on that it will do operations. For example, we will create one integrations, the child integration as add. So this child integration will take two value as a request payload, this two value as a request payload, and it will return as the result of additions. So similar way we will create one more child integrations as subtract sub or subtract something, and it will take this two value and it will return the result as subtraction of these two number. So similar way we will create one more child integrations that will do the multiplications of these two number, and all these three child integration we will invoke from our parent integrations. So just based on that operations whatever user will select, so that's way where we will check whatever user selected the operations, based on that we will invoke our child integrations. So let's, like we have these integrations already there, let's build these three integrations, and then we will jump to invoking all these three integrations in our one of the integrations. So let me copy this name. So let's me create one integrations. We'll give the name addition. Just click on create. So here we required one trigger endpoint, and which we already created that. What was the trigger connection name? This one, right? So let me add this rest. Here we'll pass anything that let's pass as add only, and these integrations will take two values as a request payload, and it will return the result. That's why we'll select the post operations for these integrations, and we'll add the request payload and the response payload. Let's go next here, and here we have to provide the structure for the request payload. So provide the structure for the request payload. We'll pass p any payload we can create. So let me create payload here only. So that the same payload we will utilize here, and one, and it will return the result as addition. So we'll make as a response payload also, this one. So I'm just going to use this request payload here, and then we have to provide the response payload in our integration. So just I'm adding here. Now finish. So as we know that this integration is going to work for doing additions only, so directly we will do the addition operations here and by returning the result for this integration. So in the response payload, this is our result, and this result we know that this result will hold the addition of these two number. So we map this n1 and we'll do plus n2. Validate and back. And we know this point that each and every integration should have at least one business identifier. That's why we are getting error, because as of now we have not added any of the business identifier. So we'll just go and add the business identifier. So we can utilize any of the values. Let me go use N1 only and save. Go back and this is done. So these integrations will take two values as a payload and it will return the result as an addition of these two numbers. Similar way, we have to create another one for multiplications and all. So let me just create a copy of this integration. So to create a copy of this one, we know that we have clone facilities. So here this time instead of addition, we'll go for subtraction. Clone, sorry, I just click on cancel. So now our another integration subtractions got created and here we just have to do the subtraction instead of doing the additions. And that value we are doing in the mapping directly. So we'll directly go to the mapping and here in the mapping instead of addition that plus operations we'll select that minus operations. That's done. Now go back. These two integrations we have created. So now we'll go third for the multiplication. So I'm just going to click clone again. So for this multiplications, we have asterisk operations. That asterisk operations will multiply this two number, just whatever number we provided here. So the one number is coming from N1, another number is coming from N2. So now we created all these three integrations already. Now we have to utilize these three integrations in our main integrations based on that the conditions or based on that operations, whatever user will select in that URI parameters. So let me create a clone of this integration so that I don't want to do any changes here. So just creating a new version, sorry. In the new version, what we'll do, let me edit this one. So here you can see in the trigger endpoint, we are receiving one value. So we are receiving one value as a operator, this value, this one, this P operator. And for this P operator, we have to add conditions that if P operation value as a add, then we have to invoke these two, we have to invoke integrations so that it will do additions. If P operation value is subtracts or sub something, it will invoke another integration. That kind of logic we have to add. In integrations, to add the logic for the checking conditions, we have switch statement here, switch action here in OIC. If you'll see here, we have switch. You can see the switch is just working as a logical operator where it can do the conditions check. So here we want in our integrations that whenever we will get the value and based on that value we have to invoke another integrations. So that's why we'll add switch action here in our integration. So let me drag this switch here and here we just going to add the switch after this start point because this is the endpoint which is going to trigger our integrations. This is the endpoint, this is the endpoint which is going to return the response for this integration, and between these two we have to play so that whatever operations we want we can do inside that one only. So here as we added this point and we have not defined any conditions, we are getting error here. So to give conditions here, just double click on this this name. So in generation 3 direct double click will directly open you the configuration page where you can write the code for that. So here you can see we have to add the conditions. So what condition we want add? We want to add the conditions on the URI parameters or the template parameters. If you will see the left hand side, that the source side, in the template parameters we have name as p underscore operations. This p under operations will define that what kind of operations user want to perform. So I will drag this p operations here, and here we will select that operation as equals to, and instead of plus minus something I'm just going to use as add to check that one. If that user selected operation as add, it means that we have to invoke our integration which is doing addition operation. To remove this configuration page, just click outside. You can see error got removed. Now here you can see inside this one we have to invoke our new integrations which we created. So just click on this plus icon to invoke another integrations from the integrations. We have one action name as integration. So if you will see here in the action side, this one, right, the call, this integrations action is the one which will invoke your another integration. So just you can drag this action here directly, or in the plus icon you will just write integrations and you will see this is the same action. So just select this action here. Once you will select the actions, obviously it will ask you to give the endpoint name. So as of now it's showing that integration 1 as we have not provided any value. So we'll give the name as invoke add underscore OIC. OIC means that this is the OIC integrations we are going to invoke and this is the name. So this integration we are going to invoke, it is going to do the addition operations. Let's click on continue. And here we have to select our integration. So list of integrations, whatever we have in the integrations instance, active integrations. Remember, only active integrations will display here. So either you can search or you can select by the last created by. So you can see it's automatically displaying all the integration which is in last created and having the active status. So this is the very first integrations we created, that FOS underscore additions. I will select this one. Just click on continue. Here you can see it's automatically displaying the method as post because our integration have only one method we have given, that's the post. Just click on continue. And you can see when we selected, it's displaying all the same URL what we had. You can see that integrations version underscore metadata. It will just display that one we given the add. Just finish. So now here you can see this is this is the action which action will invoke another integrations in the same point. So now you can see here, this is the mapper. This mapper in integration saying that what value we want to pass. So this is the endpoint. We have to invoke this endpoint, but while invoking this endpoint, what value we have to pass to this endpoint. So as we know that this integration having request and request payload which we configure, that request payload value, how it will take using the mapper. Just edit the mapper and you will be able to see the two request payload we added. So if you will expand the schema request wrapper in the, see, N1 and N2. This N1 and N2 is the same N1 and N2 which we configure in the request payload while creating the integration with N1 and N2. So for that, what we have to do, we just have to take from where we have to map this value. And we know that this two N1 and N2 is coming from the query parameters. So we'll expand this query parameters here. And this is our N1. I will drag this N1 to N1 and N2 to N2. Just validate and go back. Now here you can see these integrations will be invoked. It will return the result of addition of the two number which we passed here, and that two number we have to return from our integrations. This two value we have to return from these integrations. And in this integrations, how it will return the value? Using this mapper only. It means that we have to map the value, the response of this integration in this mapper here, right? But there is one issue. If we'll see here, if we will provide the mapping, we will not be able to see this endpoint. So why we will not be able to see the endpoint, we'll let you know. You can see our endpoint name is not listed here. The endpoint name which we given addition invoke add underscore OIC is not here. So if we don't have this endpoint listed here, how we will utilize the response of that endpoint? Right, you can see invoke add underscore OIC we are not able to see here. So as we are not able to see this endpoint here, how we can utilize that value to the mapping? No, right? So this result will not should be directly from this addition of this two number. This result we want to map this result from the integrations we invoked. So how we will get one? Just because invocation of this integration, just because invocation of this integration inside this switch scope, outside this scope, the value of this node is not available. Outside this scope, you will not be able to access of this node, the response of this node. That's why here we have two options. So the very first option is we can directly map this mapper inside this one only, or another options can be we can create one variable outside this scope and we can assign the response of this one to the variable, and that variable we will map here. So instead of creating variable this time, let me map this mapper here only. So to remove this mapper from here to inside this scope, we need to reposition this one. And in generation 3 to repositions, we have cut option. To make a cut, you can click on this three dot icon and you can click on this cut. This is one option. Another option, you can just click on this cut select icon. Just select the value, select the node you want to cut. You can say this got selected and click on this cut icon. You can say this is the cut icon. Click here, you can see it's showing that this action got cut and where you want to paste it. So I want to paste it after this OIC invocations call. Just click on this plus here and just click on this paste. So now you can see when we do the paste, this mapper comes inside this scope from the outside it was there, right? So now here, once you will go to the mapping, you will be able to see the response of this node. The node is invoke add underscore OIC. Just click on this mapping. You can see invoke add underscore OIC. So for this endpoint, we are able to see the two things. The one is response wrapper, and this is the second is the request. So this request is something that while invoking this endpoint, what value we pass. So if you will expand, you will be able to see the value which we passed in the request wrapper. You can see N1 and N2. These two value we passed. And what value it returned from the integrations. So if you will expand this one in the response wrapper, you can see in the response wrapper, you will be able to see the result. And it is the same result we configure here, right? We configure while creating these integrations. So we have to map this result with our integrations response. So I will map this result with this result. And this operation, these operations we know that coming from template parameters, I will map to the template parameters. Validate and just go back. Now you can see our integration is ready, and now this integration having only one condition, that is checking the operation as add, but we want to add multiple conditions. So to add multiple conditions, no need to just drag the switch again. So we will add switch again when we have another check after these conditions, but no, we have to do add another conditions with this only. So for that, just click on this three dot for this switch. Once you will click on this three dot for the switch, you will see the options to add. And here we have two options, root and otherwise. The root is something that where we are adding the condition. This is the root. This is the one root where we are checking if condition is, if operation is add. So yes, we want to add another root only. So let's go for root. And here we have otherwise. Otherwise is also a similar like block, but this otherwise will execute only when all of the conditions which we added, all of the root which we added got failed, that not satisfy the conditions, then it will automatically execute the otherwise block. So as of now, we have to add a root condition. So we'll go for root to add another conditions. So now you can see this root got added and this is asking for adding the conditions. So what condition we want to add? So this time we'll go in the template parameters, select the operations here, and operation what you want to check with this value. I want to check this value with subtraction. So I will give the value as SUB sub. And a string message should be in single quotes or double quotes. So I generally use single quotes only. Obviously, internally it will convert it to double quotes, but let it be the same. And if you want, you can give the conditions name here, just like root 2, you can say unidentified, you can give the condition name. So I will give the condition name here, check subtraction, and just done. So you can see this is the second condition where we are doing checking the sub operations. Click outside. So you can see the name got changed, check subtract. Here we have not added any name. So let me just double click here to add the name. I will give the name check addition. Click outside to remove this configuration. Now here you can see it's showing warning just because we have not added any action inside this root. So let me add one more root, then we'll add the conditions. To add the root, you just have to click on the parent one only, the parent one having the three dots, and then you have to, not the parent one, sorry. So here you can see earlier we had only one condition, that's why it was directly displaying here. But this time we have two conditions, that's why these two conditions move under the switch, specific switch only. Here you can say switch root. So now to add another conditions, we just have to click on this three dot for the switch, that's the parent one, and then you have add operations and go add the root. And here we have to add another conditions again on the same template parameters, that operations we added here. We have to select the equals operation and we'll check multiplications, MUL for multiplications. And we'll give the name to this condition, check So these three conditions we added, and all these two integrations, again for these two conditions we have to pass invoke this same another integrations by passing the value. As of now, in integrations, they have not given options to copy and paste. They just have to option to cut and paste. So again, we have to invoke that integrations. So I will just go in the mapper. This is the integrations icon. You can see. Otherwise, you can search with that to this one. So I will just select, and this time I have to invoke for the subtraction integration, right? So we'll give invoke sub underscore OIC. This is the endpoint name I given to this integration invoke. Now here you can see this is second is that FOS subtraction our integration. We'll select this one. Continue. Continue. No need to do anything here. Just finish. So here we invoke our another integrations. Let me invoke the third integrations here. This one. Invoke multiplication underscore YC. So this is our multiplication integrations. Just go continue, continue, and finish. Now here in this case, we want, if control comes under this subtractions, we want to get the response from this integrations and want to return the value. To return the value, we need this mapper, right? But we don't have mapper here because mapper name you can see is start list. This mapper is linked to this our main trigger point, right? So we already having added this trigger point here, but in OIC we have flexibilities to add multiple mappers. So to add the mappers again, we have that action available in the integration as map. You can see this map is the action similar that this the mapper. So now here we have to map this one. So we have to drag whenever we want. So we want to drag this one after invoking the endpoint. So drag here. So as of now, we have not any open endpoint. That's why you can see we are seeing that only a start rest here, one endpoint. This mapper is saying that you want to add the mapper, but which endpoint you want to add the mapper? So I want to add the mapper for our endpoint, which is start rest. In your integrations, it can have that you will be able to see multiple endpoints here, but you just have to select that endpoint for that which you want to add the mapper. So I want to add the mapper for our start rest so that it can return the result. So we'll select this one and click on create. So a start rest mapper will be added. You can see the mapper name is start rest and what you want to provide this mapper value. So explain this one n1, obvious n1 we will do from the query parameter similar as we done for earlier. And 2 again it will be from query parameters. Operations will be from template parameters, and the result will be coming from invoke subtraction. You can see you can find one thing right here. You will not be able to find that addition integration invocations, because that invoke underscore addition underscore OIC is in another scope, that is in another if condition. That's why you are not able to see, because that's limited to a scope itself. So whatever objects you added inside the scope, you will not be able to access that object outside the scope. Then you have to add the logic in a such way that you can access outside. So now here you can see this is the response. I will expand the response. In the response wrapper, we will have the result. That result we have to map here. And now validate. Just go back, save. So now here we added two things, but if you remember, we missed one thing, right? We invoke this connection, this OIC, but we have not mapped the value to that one, right? To map the value, again, we have to click on this mapper. What value want to map while invoking that integrations? So while invoking the integration, we want to pass these two value n1 and n2. So let's expand to the query parameters. This is our pn1. This is our pn2. Just validate. So now you can see we added these two additions, subtractions, and now multiplications is added, but we have to provide the mapping. So let me go provide the mapping here. Again, in the response wrapper coming from that query parameters n1 and 2. And now here we have to return the response of this integration as a integration's result response. So again, we need this mapper. So to add the mapper, just click on this icon, search the mapper, map here, and just select this. Yes, I want to create for a start rest only. Just click on create. And here once you will expand, you will be able to find all this value, and all this value will come from different places. Operation from these operations, query parameter will have n1 and n2, and the result will coming from this invoke multiplications response. You can see this is the response, this is the request, so we have to go for response, make sure that one, and the response got mapped here. Just validate. So now you can see we added these three conditions. All these three conditions have we configured to make the response result. But what if user selected incorrect value? User not selected add or multiplication or subtraction. What if? That's why in switch we have otherwise conditions. If you will go to add, here we have otherwise. If you will add otherwise, so in case of all these three condition false, condition didn't get true, so obviously control will not move inside that one. So what it will happen, it will automatically move the control to otherwise block, and in otherwise block what you want, so let me provide the mapping again. So in otherwise block we don't want to invoke any of the integrations, we directly want to map the response, and response we will map the value. So what value we want, we can map accordingly. So here let me pass this value. So n1, whatever user will pass n1, n2, whatever operations user will pass here. And obvious control will come inside this scope, the otherwise scope, only when user will have the incorrect operation. So we can pass the result in a such way that we will pass concat value, we will write, and we'll pass the message. Please check the operation. It's not as per law. It's not correct. We can write, right? We already see that how we can merge the value, whatever value user have given that also. So if you want to add that too, yes, we have options. So what we can do here, we want to map, right? Check the operations. So we'll put single quotes to restrict this one just by giving the bracket, and the value we map operations here. Then after comma is there, yeah, this one. So it will display the result like somewhere we missed anything. Let me, yeah, comma we missed here. So validate all this, like whatever I done this concat and all, you will get more hands-on, you will get more expertise in that. Otherwise, yeah. So sometimes you will get an error, just you have to debug where you done the mistake, you will get to know. So our integration is ready. So we just have to go back and activate our integration. So if you will try to check that this time we activate our integration, and it's taken bit more time than other than, right? Because we added more logic in that our integration. So let me run these integrations now. And running the integrations, obviously we have to pass the value. So let me pass the value as add. This is the add conditions we added there, and value we are passing 20, 20, 12, 12. Sorry, just going to click on run. So when we pass that value, so you can see the result we are getting as 24. 12 plus 12, 24. If you will pass 12 plus 13, obviously we'll get 25. This one. So the first condition is working fine. Now instead of this, let me pass this sub. Sub for we added sub operations for subtractions. So now you can see this time we pass sub and it's returning the result. So it's returning the result that n1 minus n2, the 13 minus 12 is that 1. So if we will pass n1 as 100 or n2 as 50, so we should expect that result as 50 here. 50. So now sub is, instead of sub, let me go for mul. Mul for multiplications. So if we pass these two values, you can see we have the result as 5000. So all these three conditions which we added, it's working as expected. Now let me pass any incorrect value. So incorrect values, for example, division we have not added as of now. Right. So if we will run this one, it will move control to otherwise block and it will show the message we added. Please check the operations div. It's not correct. That is true. We have not added conditions for division. right? You can see this two value, whatever value we mapped, and the result is it's not mapped. So that's the way you can add the logics to invoke your child integrations, that one integrations from another integrations, and you can add a logic to check the conditions using switch. So in OIC we have switch actions to add the conditions, and in switch you can add multiple conditions. In switch we have otherwise, if all conditions will be false, otherwise will automatically execute. So in this case, if you will see the activity stream logger, so someone have asked that question, that why we are using this three that activities label and all. So you can see as we selected debug type of tracing label, that's why whatever data, whatever value this integration is flowing, we are able to see here. So if you will click on this, the very first eye icon, you will be able to see that what value this integration receive. So you can see here the integrations receive value as p underscore n2 as 50, p underscore n1 as 100, and operations as div, right? And after, based on that operation, you can see control move through the otherwise block. You can see message route through switch route with condition otherwise, because it didn't pass any of the conditions. And in otherwise case, we directly provide the mapping here. The same mapping whatever we provided, it's coming here. If I will pass add here, you can see in case of additions it will invoke child indications. So here you can see as we pass add here in the request, or sorry, where it's just, we have add. Now here you can see we pass operation as add, so this data will flow through the integrations. And here you can see if you click here, you will be able to see that add as a operations. And after that add, you can see condition, that switch we added, its route through the condition as add. You can see message route through switch route with conditions p operations underscore p operations is equals to add. And inside that, what we have done, we have invoked one integrations which were doing only addition operations. So you can see we invoke one integrations that invoke add underscore OIC, and this is the one, right? And while invoking this endpoint, right, this is the name we given to the endpoint, invoke add underscore OIC. And what message we pass, message means what request we pass to this endpoint. If you will click here, you will be able to see. So the value we pass, n1 as 100 and 2 as 50. And here you can see after processing this integration, what it return us as a result. If you will expand here, you can see its result as 150. And this is the same 150 we map to our integrations. You can see the same 50 we map here in our start rest. If you will open here, you will be able to see the 150 here. And if you want to see the log messages of your child integrations as well, I can show you there. So here you can see view child instance. If you will click here, the activity stream you are able to see right now, it's for child integrations. And this is our child integration. In the child integration, we given name as a start rest, and in start rest, we provided this two value, n1 and n2. And they done with addition of these two in directly in the mapper only, not any logics and all. So if you will see the mapper here somewhere, yeah, this one. You can see it's directly match the value with result as 150, addition of this two number, and it's return that one, return through this endpoint 150. And the same 150, this result it receive here. The same it result receive here, this point. This is the point. That here you can see in the response 150. Yeah,
I have a question.
yeah, please
Yeah,
go ahead.
if your integration fails during the mapping, how
Hmm.
do you identify and fix the issues? You have the integration that all are working well.
Hmm. Okay,
If it
so
fails, what approach?
yeah, correct. So let me show you that one. So here, for example, let's addition one, right? So now we are going to deactivate this addition integrations. So when we deactivate our integrations, one of the integrations that additions, right? So now when our integrations will try to invoke this integration, it will not be available in the instance, because I told you that it will only invoke the two integrations, right? So now here we pass add, and that add, in case of add, it will invoke additions integrations. And addition integration is not available in the system right now because it's in deactivated status. Now in this case, that same endpoint where we invoke, it will generate an error there. Here you can see.
Yeah.
You can see invoke add. So we don't have
Yes.
any point after that. So while invoking this one only, we got an error. And as we have not handled error in our integrations, it's throwing an error to for our complete integrations only. You can see we don't have any response. Why we don't have any response? We have that 500 internal server error just because we have not handled that error in our integration. So that's why in OIC handle any such kind of errors, we have a scope handler. That fault handler we have. That global level fault handler or scope level fault handler. That fault handler we can utilize to we can utilize to just handle that error. So that in case of error, if we want to send notifications and all, we can send notifications to user. So let me add that logic in this integrations also, as we already raised this point. So this is our integration. So let me create a new version of this integration.
Hey,
So,
Zafar.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Before you move further, no, because this is very basic question. Sorry to ask you, but
Yeah.
we have these two mappers, right? Before
Yeah.
the integration, we have one mapper. After the
Mhm.
integration, we have one mapper. So how do you, if you have to distinguish between these two mappers, what
Okay.
exactly is the
Okay.
difference? Why do we,
Okay.
what, yeah.
Okay. So which mapper you are talking about? Can you just highlight it?
Yeah, I mean, see,
This
for
one.
all the three, right? We have the
Yeah.
mapper before and we have the mapper after. So what
Uh-huh.
exactly this the difference
Okay.
between these two mappers?
No issues. You can see the name of that mapper. When we add, here you can see. Let me just. So I'm just going to add mapper here, right? In this point, I will show you. So when I'm going to map here, you can see the list of options they ask. Earlier it was not there. So the option they asked that invoke MUL, invoke sub, invoke add. Which mapper for which endpoint you want to add the mapper or that last. And same, I don't want to create here. And if you will go here in the last, if I will go map here, you can see the mapper we have a start list. Why we have same, we are trying to add same thing, but we have options different. Just because when we are going to add mapper here mapper, so then integration asking this mapper you are going to utilize for which endpoint. So after this specific positions, we have three endpoint, one endpoint, two endpoint, three endpoint, and the fourth for this integration itself. Four endpoint to use the mapper. That's why when we click here, it's asking all these four. And when we are clicking here, so after this we don't have any of the endpoint. So we don't have any of the endpoint. By default we have one endpoint for our integrations. That's why when we are moving here to create mapper, it's asking only to select the mapper for this start rest. Similar way you can see we added the mapper, but these two mappers are different. You can see the very first mapper name is invoke add underscore OIC. It means that this mapper is related to this node, this action, this invocations that invoke add underscore OIC. So this is the action we added to invoke our integration. This is the action we added to run another integrations from the same places. But to run this,
Whenever
yeah,
whenever we invoke this integration, the mapper will automatically get populated, right? On the left
yes,
side.
yeah, correct. So
Yeah.
mapper will automatically populate here. So it's not
On the
mandatory
left
to
side. And
for,
the right
yeah,
side you have added it.
yeah. So no, yeah, we added just because this mapper is related to start rest, and we will come to this start rest. Start rest is our trigger endpoint. And this trigger endpoint will say that we will return you some message. We will return you some payload from this integration. So that message, how integration will return. So using this mapper only, integration will return the result. That's why you can see the name as map start rest.
Yeah, but
So
if you open both the mappers, right? The let's say
yeah,
for example, yeah, invoke sub and the start
mm,
rest, it
mm,
looks both are looks the same, right?
no,
No, the target and
no,
the sourcing both looks
no.
same,
Okay, let me show you that
different.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know that here we have the mapper, right? And before this mapper, we have only one endpoint, that is this start rest. Okay, make your point. And before this mapper, this start rest, we have two endpoint. One endpoint is this invoke sub, and another point is start rest. Okay, so I'm just going to show you both. So once you will open the first mapper, you will be able to see only a start rest one. You can see the start rest. This is the only endpoint you are able to see. This is the integration metadata. I will explain someday. You can see this only one you are able to see, that is a start rest. And the target side, it means that what is the request configure with this endpoint. For the endpoint, request configure is only n1 and n2. It means we created integrations to do the addition. That integration is just only accepting two values, n1 and n2. Correct, right? Now, Now I'm going to show you this mapper. So this mapper, before this map, we have two endpoints. This is the one endpoint and this is the another endpoint. So this endpoint having the response, and this endpoint having the response, which is having only one field result, and also this endpoint having a request, this one which is having two fields. So all this you will be able to see here. So once we open here, you can see the response wrapper. This response wrapper is defining that this start rest having how many nodes to return. So the start rest having this value, all four values to return as a response. And if you source side, if you will see, here you can see we had that start rest that is there, but with the start rest we have two more nodes that invoke sub underscore response. This invoke sub response is the actual integrations call, and invoke sub OI underscore OIC request is the mapper by which we added the value, which value we want to pass to that integrations while invoking. You can see N1 and N2. And here in the response, invoke sub response, we know that this integration is returning only one message as a result. So that result you will be able to see in the response wrapper. So both are different. Name you are able to see both are looking like same name, but differences is here. It is response wrapper, it is request wrapper. So don't be confused. Sometimes you will get these two similar values, but while mapping, sometimes you will not be able to find. For example, you are looking for N1 and N2 for this endpoint, but N1 and N2 is not there. Sometimes you got confused. Make sure that you open the correct node. So we know that N1 and N2 is there in the request payload. So that you have to go for request part only. This one request. You can see here N1 and N2. So that's the difference between these two. And remember, mapper is just to support to provide the value to get the value, nothing else. So here in this case, this integration just need to pass some value. That's why we have mapper here. That mapper will help us to pass some value to this integration. So now here you can see this is the point where we got error. So we executed our integration. Let it be. So we executed our integration. While invoking this add, we got an error. So when we got an error, it's try to find that error handler part. So as of now, our integration doesn't have error handler part. That's why it's generating an error. And we can handle that error in a such way that whenever what action you want to perform when you will get an error. So as of now, you can see we don't have anything in our integrations. So we are not able to handle that error. And we are not able to take any proper action after getting that error. So if you want to do such, so what we have that two things. We have error handler at a scope level, we have error handler at global level. So in OIC, we have two kind of things to handle the error. So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to handle this error globally. So we have global fault handler. So global fault handler is saying that in this canvas page, you can see in the canvas page, anywhere you will get an error. And for to handle that error, if you don't have any scope level error handler, that the error at a handling level, that control will automatically move to global fault handler. And where to see the global fault handler? The first icon you can see this one fault icon. If you will click here, control will move to another canvas page where you will configure your global fault handler logic, what you want to do. So right now you can see I tried with that and it's showing an error just because integration need login again. Right. So here you can see just refresh this page, it will ask you to log in. And I'm just going to log in again. Sometimes it's got session expired and all. That's the reason it's generating that one. So now you can see this is our integrations. So here we know that we can have error any places. So to handle the error, we have that global fault handler. We'll go to the global fault handler. Global fault handler is nothing. It's a place. That place your control will move to that place when you will get an error. And here you will add all this logic, whatever logic you want to add. But there is differences. Let me click here. It will move our next same integration page. So the reason is, you can see this is our integration. And the integration last, what we have, you can see the return, the node. You can see this node is return node. It means that our integration will return some values. But in global fault, if you will see, in the global fault, what we have, the return throw. You can see rethrow fault. So whatever error we receive in this integration, that same error we are returning to that integrations. So one control will come here. Remember, whenever control will come to your global fault handler, always your integration status will be in error only. It cannot be in success anyway. So you have to write logic in a such way. You have to move your control in global fault handler in a such way only when you want to make sure that yes, your integration status should be marked as error. In this case, you have to move your control here in this fault handler, the global fault handler. So in the global fault handler, what you can do? So you can see in the same global fault handler, we have the actions here. If you will go below, you can see we have lots of action. But the action, few of the actions, you can see the return action here we have. Once you will try to add return actions, you are not able to add because return action is saying that we are going to return some values. But in case of global fault handler, you cannot return some values. It's 100% sure that your integration will throw an error. But with throwing an error, what additional things you want to add that you can do? So when we got an error, so what we want to hold this error message to database table. We want to hold this error message to any email notifications and all. Yes, we can take care of that one. So as of now, I have not explained you the database operations. That's why I will not go for that. So as of now, what I will do, I will add email notifications here that whenever control will come inside the global fault handler, email notifications should be triggered. That I want to add. So let me just add email notifications. So in OIC, it's easy to add email notifications. Where to add? So just go to the action and here you can see the notifications. You just have to add the notifications here. In the notifications, let me first give the name to this endpoint, global alt notification. And here you can see we have options to add to CC, BCC from subject, body and all. In generation 2, it was not options for CCC and BCC, but in generation 3, they added all the switches. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the two emails. So two email, I'm just going to add and another email that. And if you want to add multiple email, you just have to give a comma. And single quotes will be defined that this is the string message. So here, just click on this one to fix this one. So now two we added, we just have to go for adding the from. So from here, it will be defined. So from sometimes can be configured in OCI console and all. So as of now, we don't have. So generally, we can use that no reply. So as we just given that at oracle.com to make sure that the email is correct. So what it will do when it will send an email, it will send an email with your this instance configurations default email. So I will show you that one once email will be triggered. So just we given the correct email so that it will not throw an error. So we given the from email and here we have body subject. So what subject we want to give? So we want to give that integrations got error. Error. Okay, integrations. Let me give the message. Global fault error. That message I want to give in the subject, and this is the body. So in the email notifications body, you can write the HTML code, you can add the runtime values and all. So to write the HTML code, the similar way we are using HTML, we can write HTML here to define the tables and all. I will show you that I have a set of notifications template I created. I will show you that in upcoming day. So as of now, I just want to show that value here like hi, please check the below error we cast in
All
and
these
here
messages we can have as
ah,
well, not the but
can you come again?
all this body email and all we can have a lookup and we can use the lookup here directly, right?
Ah, yes, correct,
Using
correct. We can,
everything.
yeah, that's one of the features of lookup also. So we will utilize all these things. So now here you can see
Okay.
yeah. So in the message body only, I want to display the message, display the error, whatever error we receive. So whatever error we receive here, that error is there in this global fault endpoint. So to provide the mapping here in the body or anywhere, so here in the body we cannot provide any mapping directly from here. So in body we can provide the parameters. That parameters is something a variable for the notifications. In case of notifications, parameters is something that the variables which can utilize in the body. So what we are going to here, we are going to add a parameters here. Error messages, and here I want to provide. So I will provide one p underscore error. So this is the variable we created. And that variable value, if you want to display in your integrations, you have to use that curly braces here. You can see. So it means that this notification will body will consider this whenever they will find this one, it will find the name and it will consider that whatever value is there in this variable, that value will replaced here in these places. So now here we added one parameters p is underscore error is the name. You can use any of the name, not mandatory to use p underscore, but generally I'm following that way to give the name. So p underscore error is our variable name that we want to utilize in our body, and that variable should be in this notifications only, not outside anywhere. So here you can see we have parameters options. To create parameters, just click on this plus icon. So here we just have to give the name. So whatever name we given above, I already copied the p underscore error and the name we given here. And that value, that variable, what kind of value this variable will hold, that value we will get from source. So in the source, you can see we have this global fault object. You can see the fault object. It can be a scope fault object or the global fault object. So the global fault object, it means that this endpoint, this places where we got error here, the global fault object, right? So if you will expand, here you will see the error code, error reason, error details and all. So here what I want to do, I want to just take the error reason here, just drag here, that's done. So now what it will happen when this control will come here, whatever error it will receive, that error reason will hold to this variable and that variable we added in our email body. In email notifications, we can add attachment also. We will see in our upcoming days. Attachment means files. In our email notification, we can add files too. So as we done with our notification, just click outside to the canvas page to make this save. Just click here and save. So just to move our integrations page, you just have to click again to the same icon and control will come here. So whenever we will get any error in this integrations, any error anywhere, control will move to the global fault handler and it will execute whatever we have done there. So in the global fault handler, we just added email notifications. So it will perform the invoking email notifications. So now our integration is ready. I'm just going back and run this integration. So now our integration is activated. We just have to run this integrations. Just go and run this integration. So let me pass the edit operations as div or so anything you will pass because the integration sorry, we have to pass add only, right? Div if you will pass, it will control will move to that otherwise block and it will give us success. So now you can see this when we added operation as add, addition integration is not active, it will generate an error. Control will move to the global file handler and in the global file handler we added the email notifications. So just I'm going to click on run. So when we click on run, you can see in the response we got error. So why we got error? Because control moved to that global font handler and we cannot stop error passing that error from there. We see that, right? If our control integrations will be in that main home page integrations page only, we can handle that error. But in case of control move to the global fault handler, that integrations status will be always in error, but we can handle that error by performing few of the actions which we want. So here you can see we we got an error in this place while invoking this one. We got an error. After getting error, as we define that global fault handler, control moves to global fault handler, and after moving the control to the global fault handler, just, let me check that. So Here you can see after moving control to global fault handler, it's invoked the notifications. You can see the notifications we added. And in the notifications, whatever message we set, it pass. You can see this is the body for this email. So we try to see this one. Here you can see what we have. Subject. Subject we added as integrations global fault error. This was the subject, our subject. And then after we have that, we have that the from address. So from address we given our email. Yeah, this you can see we added the no reply, but oracle.com, I told you that it will take the default email coming from the OCI console. So this is like making complete path and all this for email. And here you can see that the email types and all that plain text we added, the two email address we added, and this is the body. You can see, hi team, please find all these things. And now if you will see the email, let me check that. Yeah, you can see the email we receive. So in the email, we added two email that Aaron Zafar and the Fox Oracle Apps Gmail. These two email are there. That's from OIC, that OIC mail services. And you can see the subject integration global fault error. That's the same we added. And this is the fixed message. Hi team, please check the below error we catch in global fault handler. The regards, and this is the error reason, error details we assign to the variable, right? That error you can see there are no currently active integration services. This integrations or whatever it's added, it's not active. That's why it's saying that not found error. And that error got handled in global fault handler, and we saw the status. Yeah. And how you saying that the integration status will always be in error? So, but just why this one? So, if I will show you here, go back monitoring. If you will see the observability where we have instance, let's see. Here you can see the two other integrations, our latest last two integrations. Earlier all is success, but this times it got in error out. And this error we can handle. We can handle in error and make this integration success when we will use scope level error handling. So when we will use a scope level error handling, our control will not move to the global fault handler, and then our integration status will not be in error status. So that's one of the point you can just make a note that whenever control will that most of the time they in the interview they are asking what the difference between scope level error handling and global level error handling. So that's one of the common. So I will show you when we will create that scope level error handling, we will see that how we can handle that such situation and it will not throw an error. So let's add right now only. So I'm just going to create a new version of this integration and then we will close our session for today. So we'll create a new version of this integration. So this time it is 1.3. Now here you can see, if you will see, this time this add integration will generate an error, but these two will not throw an error, right? These two will not throw an error. And now here, when we are getting error, our control is directly moving to global fault handler. In the global fault handler, we added the email notification that taking care in sending the email notifications, and whatever error we receive, that error rethrow to that integrations response. Now let's go to the integration, add the logic to handle that error itself. So we are getting error here only to invoke this two endpoint, right? To this endpoint only. So what we will do, we have a scope level handler, a scope level error handler. So that's why in OIC it's provided flexibility to use a scope. A scope is something that if you are aware about any other programming languages, just like Java, C++ and all. So in Java we have try, and then try we have catch block in Java. Right. So in the catch block, we are writing the error handling part, and the try block, we are writing all the code which can have error. So all the code we are writing in the try block, and all the logic what we want to handle the error, we are writing in the catch block. So similar way in OICs to write the block which can have error, we have to write in the scope only. So here we have a scope thing. So I will show you that. So you can see this is the scope. So this scope we will drag, and whatever endpoints we make sure that endpoint can have error, we will move that endpoint into the scope. So as of now, I will add the logic for invoking this endpoint only. So here we just have to drag this scope in our integrations. So here I drag, and for each and every scope, let me give the name. So this name also, like we know that we are giving name of each and every endpoint just to identify, so that it can be easy for us to identify in the logging stream and debugging the issues. So we'll give the name as edition underscore scope. So because we know that this scope is just going to handle the additions integration. So this is the name of this endpoint. So similar way, if you will see, this scope is nothing, it will be look like similar as the conditions root block we added. So now inside this only we have to pass this two call, right? To move this two from here and inside this one, we have option directly go and do the cut. But in OIC generation 3, we have flexibilities to select so that multiple endpoint we can cut together. So here we selected this this two endpoint will be cut at same time. To just click on this cut icon, and here we want to paste these two icons. So just click here in the plus icon, and here you can see the paste. Just click on paste. So this two node will be coming inside. And now here you can see one thing. As we added a scope here and we added our endpoint inside the scope, we got error here. Why we got error here? Similar logic. So because this integrations call we done inside this scope, outside the scope it's not available. That's quite simple, right? So as we added this endpoint integrations call inside the scope, this outside the scope is not available. That's why it's throwing in an error. If you will see here in the mapping,
Yeah.
you can see that the input source are no longer available. I mean, if you will see, the error will also say the same thing. That somewhere, let me validate. It's not showing here. Let me open it again. You can see, let's say invoke add OIC is not available. That's true. So invoke add OIC is saying here that's that OIC generation 3 issue. It should not display here. So if I will remove that error message, you can see here it's saying that the following input source are not longer available upstream, that invoke add underscore OIC. This one it's not available outside that one. So let me delete first, then only it will show you here. Right now it's showing just because we have the mapper and this OIC generation 3 having that kind of issues again and again. So you will find that lots of time issues. I deleted that mapping, and now if you will come back, it will not display this invoke add OIC. Let me save this one just to tell you that. So don't to go and confuse it. Error got resolved because we removed that unwanted invalid value. If you will go back here, you can see we are not able to see that main node to map the map value to this response, right? The result. So from where we will map this result? We map the result coming from add like invoke add underscore OIC, which is not available. So it's not available just because this is inside this specific scope, and outside the scope we don't have access, right? To that, what we have to do again, we have to move this to inside this scope only, and otherwise we can have another options that we can have the variable concept. So let me create one variable here. So this time we use that logic, right, to just map this mapper inside that scope. So this time instead of that we'll go create one variable. So we'll create variable in starting, so that variable can utilize anywhere in our integrations main device, right? So let's give the name. So I always use the default var underscore assign, so that like it will be easy to identify that this is the node where we are creating default variables. So here we have to create variables. So let me give the name as var underscore result. Okay. So we created one variable name as var result, and that variable is holding null as of now. So here what we have done, whenever this integrations will be invoked, it will return the result, and after that invoking, we want to hold that result to that variable. So I will just add that assign again. We know that assign we can utilize to create variable, and we can utilize to store the update the variables value. So we'll give the name here update addition underscore assign. Update addition is the name to the endpoint, and assign is defining that this is the assign. This is the assign action we added. So just we have to update the existing variable value, so that is which is var result. I will click here, and now which value we want to store? We want to store the response of this node. We want to store the response of this invoke add underscore OIC to this variable. So here you can see invoke add underscore OIC request. This is the request endpoint. We don't want to go for request. And in second case, if you are not able to see anything here, it means that this is the response. So you will expand here. Sometimes you can see the value. So that value name you will see here response. It will be available in the mapping only while mapping. Otherwise, in case of assigning the variables value and all, you will not see the response here written. So once you will expand that without any name, that request, you will see the post response. If you will expand here, you will see the result. That result we want to hold to this variable. So now this var result is going to store the result coming from this invoke add underscore OIC. So that's done. Right click outside to make it save. So now here you can see when we will invoke this one, it will return the result. That result will be hold to this variable, and we know that that variable is accessible outside this scope. So why this variable is accessible outside this scope? Because that variable is created outside this scope only. So if anything created outside that specific scope, that can be utilized anywhere. So that's why we created that variable here, and that variable can be utilized anywhere till here. So now if you will go to this mapping here in the result. So now what we have to map? We have to map the variable where result we created. So I will map this where result directly here. Just validate, go back and save. So now here we added a scope as of now, but we have not handled that error. Right? What if it will generate an error? Again, if it will generate an error, we don't have error handler. Control will go to the global fault only. Just to
Yes.
make just to make sure that also let me run this integration. To handle that error, we have to add the fault handler. So that's why where we will add the fault handler and all, we'll show you that one. You can see it's taking time to activate just because we added the more logic in that. So let me give the operation as add any value 10, 20. It will generate an error again. You can see same. So why we are getting, because we have not handled that error yet.
Not.
When we added the scope,
Yes.
that we invoke our API invocations, that integration invocations in scope only, but there is no use, right? Because we have not added the fault handler for that. So now to handle the fault handler, let me show you that too. Go back, activate this integration. So here you can see this is the node. We added the scope, but we have not handled the exceptions yet. To handle the exceptions, we have two exceptions block. The one is global fault handler, and another one is that scope label. So this is the scope. When we are talking about a scope label fault handler, it means that we are talking about this scope we added. For this scope, we have fault handler. So if you will click here, you will see the fault handler. So right now you will able to see two fault handler. One is default handler, and another one is the endpoint related fault handler. This is that API invocations error, because we know that this integrations can have one error. That error is API invocations error. So that's why this errors is also mentioning here. So if you want to handle that error, you can use this one. Otherwise, you can go for default. So default handler is something that in this complete scope, whenever you will get any error, control will come here in this fault handler. But instead of that default handler, if you will select this one, instead of default handler, if you will select this API invocation error, control will move to that fault handler only when we will get error here. What if we get error here while assigning the value to that variable? At the time, because we have not added that specific handler, control will again go to the global fault handler. That's why in general purpose, in general cases, in 90% cases while developing integration, we are using default handler, because we cannot have multiple handler. We cannot add multiple handler. It will make integration more complex. That's why we are adding a scope, and in a scope we are adding default handler, so that whatever error we get in that specific scope, that all error will be handled in the fault handler only. So now here you can see, we know that in this case, if our integration will have the working fine and it's giving result, that result will be hold to this variable. But we know that if integration will generate an error, it control will come here. And in this case, we know that our integrations will not have any result, any value, right? Because we integration not executed. So what we will do in this case, we will update this variable and we will assign the messages and something like that. So let me add that variable here. Give the name as update add error underscore assign. Oh, sorry, I click on cross button. Update, add, error, underscore assign. So we give a name as update, add, error, assign, something like that. We are just going to update the addition related variable where we got error. So now here again we have to select the same result variable, and this time instead of mapping this because we don't have result, right? We don't have result coming from here. And you can see this time what value we have? We have addition scope fault object. You can see addition fault scope. So earlier when we moved to the global fault handler, there was global scope fault. Now here you can see instead of providing result, I want to concrete the message. I want to concrete the message like this one. I want to display the message like CONCAT concrete error while invoking integration error is something like that. And here after that I want to display the value. So let me copy this same. Click on this expression builder, otherwise it will remove. Now what value we have to map another value, so I will give comma, and what value I have to map. So if you will expand this addition one result, and here instead of providing all this code result and I will just want to get reason. You can add all these three value also. So I will just take the reason here, and now close. Click on this expression builder, so it will show error while invoking integration is whatever error reason value will be here, that will display. So that's fine. Just click outside to save this one. Now here you can see our variable will have two kind of value. If it is got invoked success, it will have the value. Otherwise, it will just hold the error. Instead of result, it will hold the error message. So now we already map this error message here, the variable. No need to take any action now. That you can see valid result already mapped here, right? Just go back, save, and let's run this integration. So just I'm going to run these integrations. Add sim. Now run. This time I run this integration, but this time we didn't get error. The status code is 200. Okay, it means our integrations work fine, 100% successful. We don't have any error. We don't have error in integrations, integration status, but we logically we have error. So what value we receive in the response? You can see n1 as 12, n2 as 12, operation as add, and what is the result? The result is error while invoking integrations. Error is, this is the error message we got. That please check URL and try again. There is no currently active integration services. This one, that not found 404. What if we activate our integration? So let me activate these integrations first. So let me go to the design again. So this is the addition integration which is in active right now. Let me activate this. So this is now activated. If I will run these integrations now, it will not generate an error. You can see we got the result. Why? Because we don't have error. In case of let me show you the activity stream, how it got flow. Whatever we added the logic in the integration, it works like that. So you can see control will move through the condition as add. Inside that add, you can see it just invoke this. Inside the add, just it move the scope as addition underscore scope. Inside the scope, we invoke that endpoint. While invoking, we pass the value, and whatever value this endpoint return, that value we store to that variable, and we given the name to that endpoint, that update assign underscore assign, update addition underscore assign. If you will expand, you will be able to see that variable where underscore result was assigned with 14. The same variable we map in the mapper of response. You can see somewhere, yeah. This one result is 14. The same return from the integrations also. This one. And what if we will deactivate other integrations? So we have multiple integrations, right? Multiplications integration. Let me deactivate this integration. So as we have not added the logic to handle the error for this multiplication integrations, if we will pass mul for multiplications, it will invoke that it will try to invoke the integrations, but it will generate an error. As we don't have a scope level fault handler, it will directly move to that global fault handler. And that's why our integration status is 500 internal server error. And this is the error message. We don't have value. That's because while invoking this one, control move to that global fault handler. You can see Directly we are invoking that multiple integrations, and it got global fault handler. And in the global fault handler, we will have that error notifications. It send that error notifications to the our email, and then after that, it's returning the same error message to that integrations. If you will see the integration, I should expect one email notification. You can see, yeah, the same 0 minute ago. This is the error message we received. This time, the error
The
message name is multiplications one.
yeah, Jafar,
Yeah,
just one confusion that
yeah.
if we handle the error in the scope itself,
Hmm.
then also can we still pass that error to the global fault
Yes,
handler?
yes, we can
Okay.
pass. We have options actions available in OIC. So that in case of if you want that any error we
If
got, we
we
want to make our integrations. Yeah,
if you don't want to pass through the global fault, what will happen? Is that okay? We can handle the error in the scope itself.
yeah, we handle that error, right? In case of addition, we handle that error, right? So that's why control didn't go to that global fault handler. So I will show you the difference between these two.
Yeah, yeah.
Here you can see this is our previous integrations, right? Where we done for additions. Even though we have error in these integrations, not this one. Yeah, this one, right? Even though we had error with these integrations, but control integration status is not showing an error. Why? Because we handle the error in integrations canvas using that scope level fault handler only. And this is the latest integration. You can see this one. This is the integrations which got error out just because control moved to the global fault handler. And it's sure that whenever control will move to the global fault handler, integration status will be in error only. It's 100% sure. So that's the difference between these two. So we have global fault handler, we have that scope level fault handler. Day by day we will work on more logic in that, and day by day we will learn more points about this two scope level integrations and the global fault level handler.
Zafar, one
Yeah.
sec. Actually, today's session was very important. That scope part.
Yeah.
One question I have, like, can we how to move navigate between local scope and global scope? Can you once show it?
Okay, sure. So this is that's why like that I have something in my mind that using that way I will deliver that sessions, but someone
Sure, sir.
interrupt that
One.
flow got changed.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay, so here you can see. Okay, so in generation 3, to make this integrations canvas bit smaller, zoom in, zoom out, you can directly click on that control in the keyboard, and you can scroll down, scroll your mouse up and down, right? So it will make it zoom and all. Otherwise, you have option here. You can see this one, so you can use these options too. So I generally use that mouse. So here you can see this is the scope we added, and in the scope, this is the scope we added. In the scope, this is our main logic where we added the logic to handle the error. To can someone please mute yourself? So this is our scope. In the scope, we have our main. In main, we write the code, write the logic where we expect that we can have error. Not mandatory that you will have that error, but you will write logic that if what if that your error get your integrations got error. So that's why we have fault handler. So here we have the fault handler, and again same whatever things you can do here, you can write the things here also. So it can be possible that if we have error in this one, so you have created another version of additional integrations, and you will invoke and that integrations here. You can write logic in a such way too. So this is a scope level error handler. This is a scope. This is a scope body. This is the scope fault handler. That scope fault handler is also known as that the one of in a scope fault handler we have multiple fault handler. That one of that is default handler, which is common. And default handler can handle all the errors whatever occur during this your main scope. And in that one we have another error which is specific to API. For example, here I will invoke soap services. So in the fault handler you will get soap related error details. We'll see in our upcoming days. And to navigate to the global fault handler, you will just have to click on this fault handler icon. So if you will click here, you will be able to navigate to the canvas where you will design the global logic, global fault handler logic. And again, if you will click on the same icon, your control will move to the integrations canvas page. And one more thing to highlight between this global fault handler and a scope fault handler, in your integrations, there can be only one global fault handler, which is clear by name only that globally it will handle. And in your integrations, you can have multiple scope level fault handler. So here you can see we added a scope as of now for additions. You can add a scope for subtractions too. You can add a scope for multiplications too. So in your integrations, you have multiple scopes, multiple scope level fault handler, but in your integrations, you will have only one global fault handler.
Yeah, Zafar.
Yeah.
Can we place multiple invoke calls in a single scope and handle their errors collectively, or better to use separate scopes?
Yes, you can invoke. So if you want, for example, our requirement in a such way that first invoke the addition integrations, whatever result it will give, call another integrations and pass that result to that. You can use that one too. In your
Okay.
project just for hands up while working on that, so Oracle designed one framework that name as common framework, CELF, your common error handling framework. And also what framework they designed, they created set of integrations. That set of integration is taking care of all that kind of error and all. So whenever you will get an error here, so here we got error, we handle the error here, so you have to invoke that integrations they created, so that you will pass that value to the integrations, and that integration will take care of multiple things. That integrations will create one file with that error message, upload the file to object storage. That integration will, whatever error message you got, that it will store that error message to database table. That lots of things they can do. And so that that same database table is linked to VBCS page. In the VBCS page, they have the dashboard something, so where they can check that, okay, this integration got executed and this integration having this error, so they will directly check there. So that kind of things are there. So that you will not do that. How you can invoke multiple scopes and multiple endpoints to a scope. That's yes, having the flexibilities.
Yeah.
Zafar, that is a different point of view.
Mm,
Having a VPCS page and having an
mm,
uh, scope
mm,
handlers within
mm,
an integration.
mm.
But question is like the question is like within a one scope handler, can't we use multiple times within multiple loops?
That's why I told you yes. After yes, I given you the example that where you can utilize that one.
Apart from VBCS, can we
Anything based
use
on, yeah, anything like you, I told you, right? We have one example, we have one requirement. So when we will get the result from this endpoint, we have to invoke another endpoint, another integrations where we have to pass this value. You can use, let's say that here we added the invocations. After getting the result, we have to add another integrations, which integrations will do the multiplications. We can invoke.
scope handler?
Yeah,
Can we have handler
yeah,
same
yes, we
scope handler in multiple loops? Can I have here can you scroll down? There is another
mm,
route. Right? Within this
yeah,
route, can I use same scope handler?
same.
We
What
can't,
it
right?
means same? No, no, what it means same?
Scope handler which you have utilized in the above
No, you can add another one, and another means
another one.
yeah, in
We cannot use
another
the same scope handler from different routes within a different groups. We need to
s-
have a separate scope handler,
separate
right?
same cannot access it. Listen, how the
Only
control
the
will
global
your,
fault
yeah,
handler can be used in only the global fault handler can be used within all the integration wherever
uh,
we want to use it.
correct. Even global fault or handler is one only. That's why I'm saying that. For example, what we can do. So whatever logic we added here, right? Okay, let me show you that. So in OIC Gen3, we have options to just minimize this all this. So we can just click on this arrow, it will minimize, right? So here you
Yeah.
can see we have the logic, right? So what we can do, we can create one scope here. Scope here. Let me, and we'll give the name as main scope. And in the scope, we can add our this scope here.
Okay. In the entire process we can add here, having a
Yeah,
switch, root, and everything.
everything.
Okay.
Even yeah, even we can
Okay.
add that.
The
Yeah,
scope,
this one. Yeah,
the single scope can't be handled within all these routes, right? We need to have a separate scope out of the box, and all the process can be have within a scope.
correct. But it seems as like if you will try to like observe, that question is not valid here. Why it's not
Hmm.
valid?
Hmm.
Because that code integration is flowing in sequence way, right? Sequence way when
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
saying that left to right. So now you can see your control is here, right? In this point. So if your control is here, it will just go ahead only. It will not go backtrack and you can control here this point. So that's why like you cannot access this scope again because your
Okay.
scope is above already. So that kind of things we have. Yes, we have while loop concept, but in while loop it's iterating. It's not just going backtrack that one.
That
So
is also a forward track itself, right?
yeah,
Looping is something where each and every record you can have a handler and you can have showcase the error messages and all.
correct, correct,
And
correct.
again, it will go to the next record and it will handle those
Hmm,
errors.
correct. Correct. For example, we will see that one too. So what we will do, we will create. So once we will go for like API invocations and all, or like for a real like API invocations, for example, ERP related things. So we will
Mhm.
get few invoice related things in the request payload of our integrations, and for
Mhm.
example, we will get multiple invoices related things. We will iterate the loop over their multiple elements, and inside the loop we will add a scope, and each scope will invoke API to create API invoices in Oracle ERP, and then we will handle the error. So that whenever we will get any error while invoking the API, control will move to the fault handler. It will invoke it will handle that error by sending notifications or marking that record into tables, and then as it is for each loop, it will iterate the loop again. So that kind of things we can do. Will do.
Okay. Okay. And one more thing, Zafar,
Yeah.
for each and every record looping, can we
Hmm.
have a bulk input concept as well, right?
Uh,
Um, a bulk
y-
import where it will import the data with bulk, right? But
where
can we
no
can
no
we limit the records like
where you want
there are.
where you want to import the bulk record.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're using a REST API
Hmm.
and you're picking the file from the FTP server or any other integration,
Hmm.
there is a record of 10,000 records, okay,
Hmm.
and I need to based on the payload, I need to insert the data into the ATP table,
Hmm.
and because inserting the data into the ATP tables, you need to validate it based on the REST
Hmm.
API, right?
Correct, correct.
And when you are validating it for each and every record, I don't want to validate for each and every record. I need to validate the limitation of 5,000 records for each.
Hmm.
So, how will the process goes? I
Okay.
mean, like
Okay. So okay.
based on
So
the batch
wait,
or
wait.
based on
No,
there is
no.
a caching limitations.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Wait. So in database operations, OIC provide flexibilities to import bulk data into single hit only. For example, you have 200 records in the file. And all
Mm-hmm.
200 records you want to insert into tables. So you can
Mm-hmm.
insert all 200 record in single hit. That's we have array mapping in that ATP endpoint or database endpoint. So
Okay.
that yes,
I
ATP,
understand.
yeah, Oracle ATP or Oracle integrations provide that flexibilities to insert bulk data in table a single
Mm-hmm.
hit, but it's having demerit too. So that's why like clearly
Okay.
it's not right time to like discuss here. Like once we will go to the
Okay.
database
Okay.
related endpoint, we'll explain. Otherwise, like you
Okay.
maybe know
Okay.
that all these things. That's why it's easy for you. But the one who is new in OIC, they will just get confused at what discussion we have right now.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so let's close the sessions for today. uh, we can start having that discussions related to questions and all. So platform is open for you. So anyone having any questions related to that, please feel free to ask. Yeah, Walid, go ahead.
Hi, Zafar, Wali there.
Yeah, hello.
Uh, I don't have right now. I don't have any questions since we
Hmm.
had so much concepts in today's session.
Hmm.
Definitely, we will practice
Hmm.
it, and
Yep.
obviously afterwards we will have some questions.
Hmm.
Therefore, I request you to take 5 minutes QA session tomorrow at the start of the class.
Okay, we'll try to do the same. So tomorrow we'll discuss for 5 to 10 minutes. First, we'll ask few of the questions, then we'll start.
Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, and I request everyone that please like whatever questions you have, please make a note of that questions, and so that in last every sessions we have that questions our session, so we can discuss that one. So just because that while this sessions when like we are asking questions, we are just missing our track. So I have already something in my mind to explain, but when you are asking questions, then also I got something that okay, let's if we'll fix this one also. Yeah, let's explain that one that points also. It will be better. So that's got here and there. So yeah,
100% agree.
yeah, yeah. Well, any other having any other questions?
Zafar,
Yeah,
in
please.
global fault handler,
Yeah.
we have read-through fault as default, right?
Yes.
So what is the use of the read-through fault?
Okay. So that even it's already there, right? In integrations, when we move to the global fault handler, it was there. I will show you that one. So when we move to that global fault handler, that's the rethrow fault. So this rethrow is saying that whatever error we receive here, same error we will return. So from here, where it will return? From here, it will return to our integrations response, because after that we don't have anything, right? After this, we don't have anything. It means that integration is going to terminate. With termination, it will return the same error message, whatever we have. This we receive in the global fault handler. So that's why we have rethrow. So not only rethrow, we have one more thing that we can create our own exceptions also. So here you can see the fault return. This is the same that rethrow fault. So here we have some one option that rethrow fault. You can see throw new fault. So this throw new fault will help you to create a new error message at runtime to generate custom error. So that's why we have that's all things we will cover day by day. So I'm just waiting for that once we will cover small things day by day, then we will all go through all these things. Here you can see the fault return. So this fault return is something that if you will go to that integration. So for example, our logic in a such way or our requirement in a such way that let me show you. So here you can see, I tried to explain this one, but it was not explained. So sometimes like it's generating that kind of issues. So here you can see our requirement is even we generate an error, right? Even we got an error, we handle that error here, but except that we want to move our control to fault handler. It's our integrations logic only that in our integrations anywhere we got an error, handle that error in OIC, and after handling that error, mark that integration status as error. That's our requirement. So how you will mark your integration status as error? Because here you handle the error, and once you handle the error, your integration will be in success status. But you want that your requirement is anywhere you got an error, your integration should be in error status. It means that you should have mandatory to move your integrations control to global fault handler. That how you will do, because your control is here. After this updating value to that variable, control will move here at this point, this mapping. And this mapping will hold the correct value. It will not generate an error. But you want to generate an error. That's why here we have actions to generate to throw the fault. So whatever you can say return fault. So whatever error you receive here in the global fault handler, same error will move to up above. So when we are saying that same error will move to above, so as of now here you can see we have this main scope error. We can add the fault handler for this main. So after generating error from here, control will move to this scope. It will check that do we have fault handler for this scope. It will go below and check. Okay, no, as of now we don't have fault handler for this scope. Control will move directly to global fault handler again. Otherwise, if we will have fault handler for this main fault, it will handle the error here again. And again, we want to move to the error to fault handler. Then again, in the main fault handler, we have to use this return fault so that the same error will move to the global fault handler. So that kind of things we have here. Yeah. Any other questions?
So once the error is handled by the error handler, if we want to move the controller to other flows like other scope or other activity, so how to perform that? In OSB,
No.
we have an resume activity.
No, it will not automatically move that flow. So as I told you, it will move to left to right only. So for example, same way here you can see we handle that error. After handling that error, we have not done anything. After handling that error, control just move ahead. And after moving here you can see define that scope got ended. So once this got that fault handler got ended, it just moves to the scope and it say that what is this next to the scope. So next the scope, this got the mapping. So control will automatically move here. You cannot make to move your control here this point or control move to here from anywhere, just like in PL square levels and control and all. We don't have such thing in OIC. It will just move to left to right only, and for each and every endpoint taking care of that one. So when you are in route 1 and you want to move to control route 2, it's not possible, because in route 2 control will only comes when route 1 conditions will be false. And if route 1 conditions will be false, it means that control will not move inside that, it will move to second route only.
Yeah, this will be clear. So if suppose if I want to invoke other service other than this addition, subtraction, multiplication, if I want to invoke some other service, so I have the error in first route itself in addition. So I handle the error in this fault handler, but I need the controller to in that invoke as well. So how to perform that?
No, invoke where? So you have control here in this point. So you handle that error here
Yeah,
in this point.
after calling this addition, I have some
Yeah.
other call
Huh. No, you can't move there. For example, we got error here. After getting error, that's why I'm just trying to say that once you got error here, control will not move ahead. It will just go to the fault handler. Now, once control will do the fault handler part here, it will not go back to this location again. If control will go back to this location again, then only it will move ahead and go to this point, right? This point here, if we have variable instead of we can have invocations and all. So once control will move ahead to that fault handler, after this, it will just terminate all this flow, whatever you have for the scope, and control will go outside this scope only. Not it will look inside the scope again. You got my point?
Yeah, Zafar.
Okay,
So
again.
my question is different. Actually, you didn't got my question, I guess. So actually, we got the error inside the scope. My question is, I want to invoke some other endpoint which is outside the scope.
Yeah,
So
here.
inside scope,
Let's say here.
we handle the error, right? So
Let-
once the error is handled, I need my controller to move to next scope or next invoke activity, next upcoming activity.
Mhm. That's we are already doing. That's why I'm explaining, right? You
I
got your control
understood.
here. You got your control here. You got an error here. Control move to this scope here. Fault handler. You handle that here. After handling the error, control automatically moving to this place. So
Yeah, understood.
in our example, it's mapper. You map the value. Instead of this, in your example or in your case, it can be any other API calls. It can be any database invocations and all. It can be anything. So that will flow. It will not interrupt that one. So just for example, we have this mapper here. In your integration, it can be anything. Once control move here, it will do anything whatever you have written in your code.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions?